Hi, my lovelies. Welcome to Pandora's Box. I don't have a background yet, but just bear with me. So, I'm going to talk about the paranormal, hauntings, things that kind of pique your interest. Are there really ghosts out there? Are these true stories? I mean, think for yourself. Maybe we'll find out. But I want to start off with one that's very famous for having hauntings. Alcatraz prison. It's off the coast. Maybe not coast, but it's in San Francisco, United States, for those of y'all who don't live in the United States. Now, there's a lot of things that go wrong in Alcatraz, from back then and now, obviously. Now, one thing that came to my mind is, anybody ever notice how some really famous prisons, both fictional and real, start with the letter A? Azkaban, Arkham, Alcatraz? Kind of gets you thinking. So Alcatraz Island was once described as and called the Rock. It originally, history, belonged to Native Americans. Duh. Unfortunately, it was taken from them. It ranks on one of the top lists of the world's most haunted prisons. But for a good reason. It also housed some of the worst of the worst. From Scarface, Al Capone, the murderer Robert Stroud, also known as the Birdman of Alcatraz. But Alcatraz started way back in 1775 when a Spanish explorer named what he found to be this rugged rock of an island. Now, don't hate me for my pronunciation. La Isla de los Alcatrazes? Alcatrazes? Also known as the Island of the Pelicans. 3/4 of a century later, President Fillmore of the United States transferred the island to an American military. At first, it was an operational lighthouse on the west coast, but because it was more like a fortress, since it was hard to get in and out of the island from high tide and low tide, it became a secure location to store military equipment and the most dangerous criminals. But let's stop. So, in the beginning, when the island was inhabited by local Native Americans, they already believed the island to be inhabited by malicious, bad spirits. One of their punishments for if you broke tribal law, some of you would be sent to be isolated on the island, sometimes even banished for life to live among the bad spirits. It's said that sometimes you can hear and see in the shadows, in the fog, clanging songs, wailing, shrieking, whistling, so many different things. So it served as a federal eventually, after military, it was served as a federal penitentiary. So many people report strange noises, terrible smells, sobbing, and something that I came across they called the Thing, had glowing eyes. Phantom prisoners, even soldiers, even families who lived on the island, because not everybody knows this, but families of the guards actually did live on the island because it was so hard to get to and from. It just made it easier and probably a little more scary. So obviously there's dead buried out there, Native American prisoners, families. Now, let's get back to the history. It housed prisoners of war from the Civil War, and by 1906, San Francisco and the state of California decided to turn it into the federal penitentiary. I don't know why I can't say that word sometimes. From Al Capone, Stroud, George Machine Gun Kelly, and Bumpy Johnson, it's an old military fortress. Now, there has been several escapes from Frank Morris, John Anglin, and Clarence Anglin, who managed to break out, but they were never seen again. So a lot of the tales come from people who have been there, people who worked there, and even ghost hunters, though some of them I don't believe are true and they just try to sell a book. Famous one is the Ghost Woman of Alcatraz. I don't know how to quite tell this one. So it's a woman who wanders around. No one knows if it was a nurse, a family member. She definitely wasn't a guard. But they see her wandering around, capturing it on camera as a wisp, like in a dress, or just a tender touch. She seems to be one of the nicer ones, if you can call a ghost nice. Woman sobbing, Native American ghosts from the early age, those are usually believed to be seen as floating blue lights around the property. Sometimes, though, you can hear prison chains, old prison chains. Now, everybody knows that Al Capone stayed here, and it's said that in his last days at Alcatraz, you could hear him playing his banjo. Well, apparently the banjo stuck around. Hopefully he was good. I don't know about you, but I've heard some pretty bad banjo players. Now, the most haunted place of Alcatraz prison is cell block D. Don't know why. Well, maybe it's because they called it the hole. Kind of like solitary confinement. It includes cell 14D, which is always freezing but cold for some odd reason, even in the middle of the summer. There's also ghost reportings that have been found in cells 11, 12, and 13 of the same block. Now tell me, what are they hiding about cell block D? Now let's see. Oh, now the burned out shell of the warden's house. Burned out shell. Such a weird term, but I see it on all the websites talking about Alcatraz. The warden's house always has this ghostly man walking around. Gray suit, brim cap, and mutton chop sideburns. Ugh. And it showed up at a party in the 1940s that was being held at the warden's house. Now, my favorite thing, because I think it's kind of cute, but on foggy nights, it's very dark, it's said that the old lighthouse will light up. But, it's not there. It says it's accompanied by a whistling sound and green light that slowly rotates around the island. And it appears to everybody, but then it vanishes. Who are they calling? Is it a beacon? Are they calling home some of the wandering souls? Do you believe in purgatory? I believe there are ghosts, but I've always been quite convinced that they're ones serving purgatory, waiting for judgment, never made a decision on what they believed, or they're just really, really bad. Apparently you can hear gunshots, cannon blasts. Now, my parents actually did go to Alcatraz prison and took a tour. And get this, the tour was given by an ex-inmate of Alcatraz. Kind of cool, kind of not cool at the same time. And he talked about how when he's giving tours or even by himself, he still feels the misery. And it's so heavy that he said he can't even walk in some of the cell blocks, especially cell block D, which I think they pass by cell block D in the tour. Not 100%, don't quote me on it. It's crazy. I want to go, and they have ghost tours, and I'd love to go and experience it. But honestly, I think my heart would be heavy because Alcatraz, even though the prisoners were usually the most notorious and evil criminals, they didn't deserve some of the treatment they got. Now, certain people, serial killers, I don't think I'd care that much. But so crazy. There's so much to talk about. There's been escape attempts, killings, general population. So, D block, back to D block. It was known as not just the hole, but the treatment block. 42 cells of varying different types of restriction for prisoners. Remember, this is incarceration. From no contact to no work, no food in the mess hall, no communication with other, no recreation, possibly maybe even only got 2 showers a week. And maybe the only diversion was reading, which for some people will make you go crazy. So 5 of the 6 cells in D block were known as strip cells, but there we go, more referred to as the hole. These were reserved for the most serious offenders of the rules of the prison. Yeah, I know, there's rules at prison. It was the coldest place in the prison, mind you, which is probably why it's always freezing now. Only a sink, a toilet, and one low wattage light bulb that could only be turned off by the guards. Mattresses were taken away during the day. Oh, completely isolated. The last strip of D block is known as the Oriental. Sounds a bit racist to me. Oh yeah, super racist. It was the most severe punishment part of the prison that anyone could be assigned. It was deprivation of all peripheral senses. It was a dark, steel encased cell, no sink or toilet, just a small hole in the floor for bathroom. Inmates were naked in the cell, restricted diet, and confined to the pitch black and cold environment, and the mattress was taken away at night. This is treated worse than animals. Though sometimes a serial killer kind of deserves it, and some others, but I'm not going to go into that because, yeah. There are so many different spirits and cold spots within the hallways, especially in D block, and I can understand why. Kind of crazy. Oh, my favorite, in cell block D, cell 12, there is an evil spirit that a lot of people have, which I believe only psychics and ghost hunters have been there. Doesn't quite say. Has loud clanging noises. Oh my gosh, lost my place. Steel door has been known to open and close, just like many all over this place. And images of twisted and dismembered men. Tell me that's not freaking creepy. But I've noticed most of the sightings are, I say sightings like this because some of them are false, some of them are true. You don't know which is which. From ghostly orbs, sounds, screams, moans, cries, clanging, small apparitions. I've never seen or heard of a full-bodied apparition. Usually it's just a slight image. It's like part of a body, not a full body. I don't know if they have more trouble getting the energy to do it or what. Don't know. Maybe we should ask. Though apparently everybody's favorite one seems to be the banjo playing of Al Capone. I still really hope he can play in tune. I honestly think they should probably reopen Alcatraz, because there are some awful people in our world that probably deserve that. But that's just my opinion, and it's not fact. Anything else we should talk about? Whole prison. Oh, it was because of the cost of running the prison and because of the treatment that was found there. It was closed in 1963 and then later reopened for public tours. It's been so isolated. So isolated. So it seems if you want to go and visit, you might want to visit Cell Block D. It seems A, B, and C only have crying. Oh, an inmate in Block C who murdered Abby Moldowitz, who was a mob hitman who was known as the Butcher. I'd say stay away from that one. I don't want to be around anybody that's called the Butcher. Why don't you, so, between me and you, I want to go. I want to see it. But I know my heart would be heavy too. I don't know. What do you think? What should I talk about next? What kind of hauntings or spooky tales or places can I visit? Ooh, maybe the Winchester Mansion? Or maybe somewhere in a different country. Could always talk about my own haunting experience. Downtown, San Antonio. Tell me, my lovelies. Goodbye for now from Pandora's Box, and don't forget, unleash the chaos. Bye.